This is going to be a super uncontroversial video, I promise, guys. So, recently I was talking to one of my long-term players in my Draw Steel game, and he asked me, "Hey, Crispy, it's been a while since I've checked up on D&D. I kind of fell out of it when we started playing this. What's been going on with D&D recently?" And I actually had a lot to say to him because at the time, I felt like there was a lot going on with D&D. You know, they just released a new starter adventure. I think it's the 4th one they've put out. They're also retooling the old Mystic Telepath class into the Psion class, but that class is not going to come out for a while. It's still in playtesting and kind of just feels like another spellcaster, but you know, it's still a new class. That's cool. Oh, also in that same playtest, there was a bunch of new spooky subclasses, many of which are just re-releases of old subclasses, but still, you know, new-ish subclasses. They're cool. And also, they added a brand new class PDF, a re-release of the Artificer. You know, they're also adding a new book that has Karlach in it. Yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm not really enthusiastic about any of these new releases. Look, I'm a guy who actually really liked D&D 2024 overall. But in terms of everything that's been put out recently for Dungeons & Dragons, I just haven't really been getting that spark of excitement, you know, the hype. I haven't looked at a D&D release recently, in the past few months, honestly, maybe even few years, and thought to myself, wow, I need to get that now. That looks incredible. That's going to change my game. That just hasn't really happened for me. And as somebody who started this channel off as basically only a D&D channel, I think that's something I need to talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about why I am not thrilled about what the future looks like for D&D. Okay, so you might be asking, Crispy, do you hate D&D 2024, and if so, why? I don't. Like I said, I liked it. I just said I'm not thrilled about the future of D&D. And I mean that very literally. When I say that, I don't mean I secretly hate the game and I'm seething on the inside. Like, no, I'm wearing my emotions on my sleeve here, okay? I like this game. I'm just not super excited and ecstatic about it. You know, in the same way that I get super ecstatic and hyped for, I don't know, new Lego sets? Yeah, new Lego sets. I mean, did you see they announced a Lego Godzilla? Oh my god, that's gonna be so big! But the point is, yeah, I don't have that happen with D&D anymore. And a big reason why is the design philosophy that they've went into with D&D 2024. They announced with 1D&D that they would be continuing 5e ad infinitum, and at the time, we didn't really know what that would look like, and now we do. It looks like the future of D&D is just more D&D, more 5e forever. I mean, that is basically what they said, but honestly, I was kind of holding out hope that they would iterate on 5e a little bit more, and they kind of did it in my mind. This especially shows in the player's handbook, which I think is the weakest of the 3 new books, because it's a really great showcase of how the mechanics of 2024 are very similar to the mechanics of 2014. Of course they are. They're the same game. They're supposed to be backwards compatible with each other, so they're not going to deviate that much. But it didn't really hit me until I was reading through the new versions of the classes and seeing that they are still very, very incredibly similar. I mean, a lot of the specs in that PHB are also retreads. I mean, I was at least hoping that the majority of the new subclasses would be brand new, but they didn't do that. The minority of the subclasses were brand new, and they didn't even add in new classes on top of that into the PHB. Like Artificer, Blood Hunter, like the unofficial official classes, they weren't present, which, again, I probably should have seen that coming, but it was still disappointing because it's the same classes that we got before, a lot of the same subclass that we got before, with a minority of new subclasses added on. And all the changes to the classes, they're mostly just stuff that you'd find in, like, the patch notes for a video game. In fact, that's how me and my party described D&D 2024 when the subject of conversation came up during my final D&D campaign, at least for now. We swapped over to 2024, and we had a long list of patch notes, but at the end of the day, that's what it felt like. It felt like just patch notes. This wasn't an expansion. This wasn't a 2.0 release. It was just a balance check. the party, my party at least, didn't feel a major difference between 2014 and 2024. It's not like there were no differences, there were differences, but in terms of big differences, yeah, those were basically non-existent, at least for us and the way that we play. Now, as a dungeon master, I did notice new stuff in terms of the content. When I got access to the new DMG through totally legal websites, totally legal, I was shocked by how long it is. And when I finally got my hands on it physically, I was shocked even more by how thick it is. I mean, you don't realize how big a book is until you're finally holding it. And yeah, the new DMG I think is genuinely really great, but not because of mechanical stuff like the magic items are leaps and bounds better. It's because of how it guides dungeon masters. You know what it says on the tin DM's guides, what it's supposed to do. Yeah, the original DMG, which is sitting right over there, is a much worse guide. It barely guides you. It's just a huge errata of crap for you to read with good advice sprinkled throughout. Whereas the new DMG, I feel like, is a much better tome to read cover to cover to give actionable real advice on how to run a game. Everything from combat to roleplay to social dynamics. I mean, there is good content in there. Great art too. I was really disappointed by the aesthetic of 2014 Dungeons and Dragons. I know I'm not the only one who's disappointed in the art of 5e, and while I know some people are down about the aesthetic of 2024 as well, I'm sorry, I think those people are lame. I like the saturated colors of the new book, especially in comparison to the art of the original. But yeah, the DMG, I think is really good. The Monster Manual, I also think is really good. You guys might know that my favorite Monster Manual and one of my favorite books released for 5e in general is Flea Mortals. Flea Mortals is a monster manual released by MCDM. It focused on making monsters more tactical and more dangerous. And while I don't think the new monster manual for 2024 D&D went that far, it did go in that direction. Monsters are definitely more dangerous and more of a threat to the party, more capable of inflicting stats conditions, and saving throws don't just like completely nullify every mechanic that the monster has. They are no longer just bags of hit points with a multi-attack. They can actually do stuff to the players beyond dealing damage. And I like that. Again, it didn't go as far as Flea Mortals, which, you know, adds whole new systems like minions and villain actions, but it did do something with the monsters. However, you might notice that none of those books are on that shelf. I read all of them through, again, totally legal websites. Totally legal. I didn't buy them. I've been playing 5e for half my life at this point. I honestly just didn't feel like these books were worth the money drop. I didn't. Like, the Monster Manual, I liked it, but I like Flea Mortals too, and at this point, I've learned enough that I've been making a lot of my own monsters, so if I need something action-oriented, I'm gonna do it myself. The DMG, yeah, it offers great advice on how to run a game, and no doubt, there's a lot I could learn there. I am not a perfect dungeon master. However, the majority of it is stuff I already know, so why would I drop money on it? And the PHB, I mean, come on, a lot of those rules, I'm just gonna get online anyway, and my players aren't really super enthusiastic about any of the new subclasses or mechanics, and especially not enthusiastic about just, like, holding them. So if we can get them online, why buy these books? I, in general, was lukewarm on actually buying any of the 2024 releases. I liked them, I thought they were good, but I didn't think they were great. I didn't think they were worth the cash, especially at launch. And I can't exaggerate this enough. The biggest reason why is because these books weren't really trying anything new. Like, yeah, they did stuff better than the original with 10 years of hindsight, but in terms of like brand new content that's gonna revolutionize how you play the game, they weren't really doing much. Like I said, it's patch notes. This game design is incredibly safe and feels risk-averse. And a game that has been out for 10 years at this point, hell, a franchise that's been around for decades, I don't know, man. I think eventually you should probably start taking at least some risks. I see the same problem in the new content they've been releasing for D&D 5e 2024. The re-release of the Artificer does not really change the game for Artificer. Still feels like just more patch notes, which I don't hate. Artificer is already a really unique class, but the problem is even more evident with that Psion class that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. The Psion, you know, it's just not that interesting of a spellcaster. it doesn't have that unique of a spell list. Damn near all of the spells are retreads of spells that other people are already casting. And in terms of new spells revealed in that playtest, obviously it's a playtest right now, so maybe they'll put in more new spells. But right now, most of them, the vast majority, are re-releases of spells from 2014. What the hell? Again, it's just more reintroduction, just more balance passes. Nothing that gets me hyped. It's cool, yeah, but hype? No. Same thing goes for the subclasses. A lot of them are re-releases with few new additions. And I really, really think that sucks because some of the subclasses introduced in 2024 are interesting. Like when they allow the designers to really try something new with the specs, they make something pretty good. But the majority of their releases are re-releases. It's just a bummer because it feels like the developers are playing it just so damn consistently safe. The future of D&D is just more D&D. Which, if you love what D&D is right now and you don't want anything to change forever and ever, then that's great. But me, I like trying new things, even if they don't work out. And frankly, I don't think D&D is going to do that for a little bit. And it's not only the developer's fault, to be clear. Official folks may not be doing much interesting stuff with Dungeons & Dragons, but do you know who is? Today's sponsor! This video is sponsored by Wild Magic Reimagined, a versatile and dynamic system for adding more unexpected magic effects to your 5th edition games. Look, Wild Magic is fun as is, but the devs behind this project want to make it even better. Now, there are 700 Wild Magic effects that can be added to a variety of stuff in the game, not just the Sorcerer subclass. With these Wild Magic cards, you as a GM have a powerful tool for bringing the unexpected to your game. Maybe a giant obelisk appears and gives you disadvantage on saving throws, or a random creature is transmuted into a dinosaur. The Wild Magic isn't it, there's also new monsters and subclasses for your players, such as the Godsend Cleric or the Dread Bargainer Warlock. So, if your game is looking for an arsenal of new magical content, then Wild Magic Reimagined is for you. If you guys are interested, you can head down into the description down below where you can pick up Wild Magic Reimagined from Kickstarter. Thank you so much to these incredible writers for sponsoring today's episode. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us. And without further ado, back to the team. Look, as a creative, you already have so much like corporate crap you have to worry about, right? But there's another problem that comes with success, that comes when your brand gets really, really big, and that is you gotta deal with a bigger audience now. Look, success is great. I'm not saying like D&D should be gate-kept unless people should play it, because I think that's lame. I think everyone should be able to play this game if they're interested in it. But the more people who are playing D&D and the longer D&D's history gets, the more people are going to be divided on what they want from the game, and the more the developers are going to have to keep it safe so that everybody's happy. This is something that happens all the time in the video game industry. You might notice that like the biggest games out there on the market, stuff like Call of Duty, stuff like Fortnite, they take so little risk. Like recently Gamescom rolled around and Call of Duty revealed their newest Black Ops title, and the big innovations were that this time we promise the campaign won't suck again, and also there's gonna be like trippy scenery. Like, yeah, they're not exactly moving the needle over there at Activision. And yeah, obviously that's Call of Duty, that's Activision. But a big reason why they act like that isn't just laziness. Okay, a big reason why they act like that is because Call of Duty is massive. It has a massive, massive audience, and they really, really don't want to rock that boat. They don't want to risk alienating a third of their player base with a big picture decision, like changing up the multiplayer in some huge way and making it more like, I don't know, Battlefield 4. You know, they want to play it safe so that their audience stays with them. And D&D 5e is an even more of a compromised position, because Call of Duty, yeah, they have a big part of the FPS and video game market, but to say they're like the only game on the FPS market is ridiculous. Whereas D&D 5th edition, obviously, it's not the only game in the TTRPG space, but it is by far the largest ever. It's huge. It's a massive game with a massive share of the total TTRPG audience. And the problem that comes with that is that now they need to cater to all those people. And when they do take even small risks, I've seen WotC get plenty of pushback on it. Like Bastions, for God's sake. They were one of the only new, fresh features in D&D 2024. I was interested in Bastions, and I was shocked when I realized that there are people out there who despise Bastions. I was getting questions in my old Q&A series where people were asking me, Crispy, are Bastions going to cause RPG horror stories and main character syndrome and ruin the fabric of 5e? And I'm like, dude, holy crap. It's an optional player housing system. What the hell? If you think it's going to ruin your game, don't use it. You know? Like, it's crazy how worked up some people got over that. Now, to be clear, I don't think this was a majority of the audience. Most people either just didn't care about Bastions or they liked them, okay? But it was enough of a portion of the audience that I noticed, and I have a sneaking suspicion that WotC are not going to continue iterating on Bastions in the future, and they might just let this new feature creep and rot because it didn't get the overwhelmingly positive reception that they were hoping for. Also, monster difficulty in the new monster manual. I said that more challenging monsters are interesting, but for God's sakes, one of the top comics on r/D&D for a little bit pissed me the hell off, because the whole point of the comic book was complaining that now monsters are too strong, that heroes feel completely neutered, that barbarians can't do anything because a dire wolf can knock them prone. Seriously? If your entire character is completely undone at the seams because a wolf knocks you prone this one time on the condition that they run at you, I'm sorry, skill issue. You have a skill issue, get good. God forbid your DM do anything interesting during combat that isn't multi-attack for the 50th time. Yay. It was frustrating because, again, WotC tried something so small. Make the monsters just a little bit more difficult. If players don't like it, they can just use the old monsters. I'm sure it'll be fine. But still, people are whining about it somehow. This game is backwards compatible, for God's sakes. If you want to use old direwolves that can't knock you prone so easily, go ask your DM to do that. Okay, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But even the idea of anything going even a little wrong for some players completely melts their brains. Now, I might not even be able to find this damn comic. It did only get a few thousand upvotes. At the end of the day, a few thousand upvotes compared to the millions that play Dungeons & Dragons is nothing. It's a small audience. But it's still enough. I'm sure the designers have noticed that. They're going to continue to see that as they take any risk, and that means they're going to be very adverse to that risk. Corporate higher-ups don't like seeing social media light up a game, okay? And frankly, I kind of get where they're coming from. Like, yeah, I hate when games get stagnant and don't innovate, but I'm a big fan of Destiny. That's what this poster is. And Destiny recently took a really big risk with their Edge of Fate expansion and their new Fate Saga. And that risk was changing the entire progression structure of the game to revolve around a new system called the Portal. I'm not going to get into it, but the point is that when they changed the fundamentals of this game, they did a huge risk. It's going to be really hard to undo the Portal. Basically, impossible, in fact. The Portal is here to stay. It is now the progression system of Destiny, and the vast majority of the audience freaking hate it. Now Bungie is screwed, in my opinion. They're trapped. Like, they have the Portal. It is the primary progression of Destiny. Everybody dislikes it, and they're kind of stuck with it now. How are they supposed to undo this thing that they've worked on for literal years? The same thing happened with D&D, actually, with 4th edition. 4th edition was a huge risk for Dungeons & Dragons, completely retooled how the game worked, completely retooled the combat, and people did not like it at all. WotC needed to pivot, and they pivoted hard into making D&D next, D&D 5th edition. They innovated there because they had to. Their back was against the wall with 4th edition, they made a risk there, and it failed. And they now have a shot at getting their audience back with 5e. I think right now, they're really successful. They're really successful, and they don't need to do another big switch up. They don't need a 6th edition because 5th edition is far from the reception of 4E. 5th edition is received very well, so why not just continue to iterate on it? Play it safe, and don't piss the audience off. And clearly I'm not really enthusiastic about that. I've seen the changes between 2E and 3E, 3E to 4E, 4E to 5E. The game shifted. The game evolved. And I just, like I said before, can't see that happening in the near future. So, what am I going to do about it? Nothing. I'm not going to do anything about it. To be clear, what I'm talking about here is not as a content creator. I am not talking as somebody who makes content for D&D. Frankly, I haven't really made exclusively D&D content in a very long time. And Crispy's Academy, even that channel, which is explicitly about D&D advice, we're now doing advice for other games. On this channel, we're doing just general drama and general tabletop stuff. So yeah, I'm not worried from the perspective of a creator. In fact, right now, I'm more successful than I ever have been. I'm more talking about the perspective of somebody who loves this game, who enjoys this game. And yeah, I think the biggest thing that I can do is try different games. You know, I want this game to change and evolve. Well, other people have evolved it. I'm really loving Draw Steel right now. I didn't love Daggerheart my few times playing it, but hey, a really talented game master just invited me to a Daggerheart one-shot for charity, and I'm going. So hey, maybe you Daggerheart fans are gonna find me as a Daggerheart lover in a few weeks, because who knows, maybe this new GM will get me to fall in love with the game. If I want to go back to 5e, I could also just download more third-party stuff. You know, WotC themselves aren't innovating on D&D, but I've seen plenty of third-party supplements that do innovate. That's one of the greatest things about games like Dungeons & Dragons, or even games like Minecraft, even though that might be a weird comparison. They're both really big, and that caused the developers to not innovate too much. But with developers aren't innovating, just adding more of the same kind of stuff, at the same time, modders are going crazy. Modders create lots of new things, and the modders for Minecraft are the same as the homebrewers for D&D. They're creating a lot of new content that gets me excited. Like I said before, a homebrew monster manual by MCDM is my favorite D&D book of all time. So yeah, that's probably going to be the future of D&D for me. Playing a lot of third-party stuff, or just playing different games in general, at least for now. Who knows, maybe in the future WotC will put out something that gets me really, really interested, but as of right now, I'm happy to just take a break. Look, just because a game isn't doing what I need it to do or I want it to do, doesn't mean I have to hate that game. I'm perfectly happy just to walk away for now and just mingle with some other stuff. In any case, if you guys are wondering, hey Crispy, you're walking away from D&D, why is D&D still in the name of your channel? I'll tell you why. It's because YouTube won't let me change it. I'm not kidding. I get an error every time I try to change the name of either of my channels. I've been trying for a couple weeks now. I'm talking to some YouTube reps about it. Hopefully we can get it sorted out. But if you're wondering, yes, this channel will continue to cover general TTRPG drama as well as some side quests. Whereas my second channel, Crispy's Academy, is going to still cover general TTRPG tips, both from Critical Role and Draw Steel, which is what we're doing right now. In any case, that's just like your channel update if you were curious. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's going to be super controversial and people might hate me for it, but I wanted to express my genuine opinion on this game that I really care about. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, I talked more about my problem with D&D's class design in this video about the Psion on my second channel. It's linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content right as it comes out. And finally, if you want to support us directly, you can buy our merch or head to our Patreon where you get exclusive D&D and Draw Steel content. I'm going to be releasing 2 PDFs in October, so make sure to check that out now. In essence, like, comment, subscribe, support. I will see you all next time. Farewell. This is totally